The world of Game of Thrones may be preparing for another major expansion, as reports suggest HBO is exploring the idea of a spin-off centered on Arya Stark, one of the most iconic and beloved characters from the original series. Years after the main show ended, Arya's mysterious final journey continues to spark curiosity, making her a natural choice for a sequel-style project that could push the franchise into completely uncharted territory. Arya Stark's story ended on a note unlike any other character. While her siblings settled into positions of power and responsibility within Westeros, Arya chose something entirely different. She sailed west of the known world, venturing beyond the maps, legends, and political structures that define the series. This decision left audiences with one of the biggest unanswered questions in the entire saga. What lies beyond Westeros? That single moment planted the seeds for endless fan theories and, potentially, a whole new chapter in the Game of Thrones universe. HBO's interest in an Arya-focused spin-off reflects both the character's popularity and the creative flexibility her ending allows. Unlike other characters whose futures were clearly defined, Arya's path remains wide open. Her journey would not be tied to familiar thrones, castles, or power struggles, giving writers the freedom to introduce new lands, cultures, and threats while still anchoring the story in a familiar face. From a storytelling perspective, Arya is uniquely suited for such an adventure. Over the course of the original series, she evolved from a rebellious noble girl into a skilled survivor, assassin, and strategist. She has traveled across continents, lived among commoners and killers alike, and learned to adapt in the most dangerous environments imaginable. These experiences make her an ideal protagonist for a story built around exploration, danger, and discovery. An Arya spin-off would also allow the franchise to move away from the political chessboard of Westeros without losing its edge. Instead of rival houses battling for power, the focus could shift to survival, identity, and the unknown. Arya's journey west could introduce mythical creatures, ancient civilizations, or entirely new forms of magic, expanding the lore far beyond what audiences have seen before. However, such a project is not without its challenges. One of the biggest risks is moving too far from the core elements that made Game of Thrones successful. The original series thrived on complex political intrigue, moral ambiguity, and interconnected storylines. A show centered on exploration might feel more like a fantasy adventure than the dark, layered drama fans expect. Striking the right balance would be crucial. Another challenge lies in the absence of source material. While George R.R. Martin's novels provide deep lore for Westeros and Essos, Arya's journey west exists largely outside the established canon. This means writers would need to build much of the world from scratch, ensuring it still feels authentic to the tone and mythology of the franchise. Creative freedom can be a strength, but also places greater responsibility on the storytelling team. There is also the question of character legacy. Arya's ending in the original series was deliberately open-ended, allowing viewers to imagine her future. Continuing her story risks undermining that ambiguity. If handled poorly, it could diminish the emotional weight of her farewell. For many fans, Arya sailing west symbolized independence, curiosity, and closure. A spin-off would need to honor those themes rather than overwrite them. Despite these concerns, interest in expanding the Game of Thrones universe remains strong. The success of recent spin-off projects has shown that audiences are still eager to return to this world, provided the storytelling is compelling and distinct. HBO has demonstrated a willingness to explore different eras and styles within the franchise, suggesting that a bold concept like an Arya sequel could fit into its broader strategy. Fan reactions to the idea have been mixed but passionate. Many viewers are excited by the prospect of seeing Arya again, especially in a story that breaks away from familiar locations. The idea of exploring unknown lands has captured imaginations, offering a sense of wonder and unpredictability that mirrors Arya's own spirit. Others, however, worry that revisiting her character could feel unnecessary or risk altering a story that already felt complete. From a cultural standpoint, Arya Stark represents one of television's most influential female characters. Her independence, resilience, and refusal to conform to expectations resonated deeply with audiences worldwide. A spin-off centered on her would not only revisit a beloved character, but also reinforce themes of self-determination and exploration that feel increasingly relevant in modern storytelling. There are also practical considerations behind the scenes. Any sequel would depend on the availability and interest of the original cast and creative leadership. Returning to such a demanding role requires careful consideration, especially given the scale and expectations associated with the franchise. HBO's cautious approach suggests that while the idea is compelling, it will only move forward if the right creative vision emerges. If the project does move ahead, it could redefine what a Game of Thrones story looks like. Instead of focusing on thrones and dynasties, it could embrace the unknown, blending survival drama, mythic fantasy, and personal growth. Arya's journey could become a story about discovery, not just of new lands, but of identity, purpose, and legacy beyond the shadow of war. Ultimately, the possibility of an Arya Stark spin-off speaks to the enduring power of the Game of Thrones universe. Even years after the series ended, its characters continue to inspire discussion, speculation, and excitement. Whether or not the spin-off becomes a reality, the interest alone highlights how deeply audiences remain connected to these stories. For now, HBO appears to be carefully weighing its options. An Arya-focused series would be a bold step, offering both creative freedom and significant risk. But if done right, it could open a new frontier for the franchise, one that sails beyond familiar shores of Westeros and into a future shaped by curiosity, courage, and the unknown.